Welcome to Socket Programming, creating networking server and client programs. In this section, we're going to take a look at several topics including an overview of Go's networking communication primitives, how to get started with datagram socket programming with UDP and Unix domain sockets. Next, we will explore how to do datagram socket programming with generic primitives to create programs that use either UDP or Unix domain sockets. After that, we will get an introduction to stream-oriented socket programming using TCP and Unix domain sockets. And lastly, we will discuss how to use generic network primitives to create programs that can either use TCP or Unix domain sockets. Go communication primitives, an overview of communicating with Go's networking API. In this video, we're going to discuss the types that are available to create communication constructs using the Go networking API. Communication primitives in Go. Network communication is accomplished using three major primitives in Go. First, from the client side, Go offers the notion of dialing to initiate communication with a remote host. Next, a connection type is used to represent communication between hosts. Lastly, from the server side, Go has the notion of listening for incoming communication requests from clients. When a program initiates a dial, it receives a connection to communicate with a remote host. Go provides several dialing functions to support different protocols, including dial IP, dial TCP, dial UDP, and dial Unix. Similarly, Go offers several connection types for each of its supported protocols, including an IP connection, TCP connection, UDP connection, and a Unix connection. When writing server programs, listening is the mechanism used to announce where and how on the network the service can be reached. Go uses a listening function to block and wait, then create a new connection when a request arrives from a remote host. As before, Go defines several listening functions for each respective protocol, including listen IP, listen TCP, listen UDP, and listen Unix. Instead of using these types and functions directly, most networking programs can be written using the following three constructs. The dial function makes it easy to initiate communication using different network protocols at runtime. The following calls to function dial will connect to a TCP and Unix network respectively. This makes it possible, for instance, to test the client locally using the Unix domain socket, then switch out the protocol to TCP for testing the same client using a remote server with no code rewrite. Similarly, most Go networking programs will likely only use the CON interface, which exposes common methods for communication between hosts. Lastly, when using streaming protocol, you can use the listen function to handle incoming requests using different protocols. For instance, the example code shows how to listen for incoming TCP or Unix domain socket connection requests. Since both of these protocols are streaming in nature, later we will see how we can write a server program which can easily switch between the two protocols with no code change. Now that we've had an overview of communication primitives in Go,